The Dingers podcast is on the air. This is episode 99. We're at 99, fellas.
99?
Yeah, I'm joined by Jeff, Kevin, and Jake. It's birthday week here at the Dingers podcast. I before the show said, "Hey, Kevin, happy birthday. Your birthday is Wednesday." And come to find out, it's Jake's birthday on Wednesday also. They share a birthday. Birthday buddies.
How about it? I thought for sure there would be S in me. You guys were all. I still think you might all be in on it.
Nope. Legitimately is my birthday on Wednesday, though. You're also pretty smart for thinking we may be BSing you because we would totally pull that.
I would not put it past you guys.
But you had an early little birthday present that got given to you, didn't you, there, Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
You showed off to the video podcast. You got a sweet new Cubs sweatshirt, just the Cubs logo, clean.
Yep,
love
classic. Yep, I wanted an actual like hoodie sweatshirt pullover because I have a couple like zip downs that I like for other reasons, but I wanted the actual like hoodie, classic. Immediately, as soon as I opened it up, my wife there. I think there's a video out if you're friends on Facebook, but my wife was like, "Ooh," and then she sent me last night. I was wearing it, and she sent me through text. She sent me, "September is females will steal your hoodie, and you will never get it back. Awareness Month." So
it is getting chilly. It was chilly today.
Yeah. It was in the 50s all day here,
but Jeffrey somehow still got a lot of sun this weekend. Looks like a tomato.
Wow.
Were you out golfing there, Jeffrey?
No, I was helping a buddy out on his dad's farm for a little while. I moved a bunch of roughs on walnut from one old hog building to another old hog building. And then we dug a trench for his parents' backup generator at their new house they built a couple years ago. Took the duals off the 4440, hooked up some wagons, got ready for harvest. I slammed a couple beers and went home.
Just living that farm life.
That's right.
Doing Iowa things.
That's right. Iowa stuff in Cornfield County, Iowa. So, but yeah, it doesn't take much for me to get a little red in the face, pink, sunburn. Doesn't matter. I can hug an oak tree and get burned.
Wear your sunscreen, Jeff. PSA to all our listeners: wear your sunscreen.
Well, remember, this episode is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and join the conversation. Follow us at Dinger Cubs on Twitter and join our Facebook group, all the social medias. We love interacting with you, Cubs fans, and our listeners. You guys drinking some Toppling Goliath tonight? I
am. I got one of my last Camp Shady Shore lemons. I needed to remember that summer isn't quite over, so I went with a shandy style beer.
I'm hitting the water hard.
Yeah. I'm with Jeff. I'm recovering from a long weekend, but for our 100th episode, I vow to finally have some Toppling Goliath.
There you go.
And I've had it before. I just don't have it on during our recordings.
Maybe I'll have beer, and then I got to find something some kind of cake that goes good with beer.
Oh, that's
German chocolate cake. Get a German chocolate cake, something heavy like that.
Do you know how many birthday cakes I got screwed out of because of COVID? This is crap. I mean,
there. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. Who knew? Oh my.
Well, I mean, this is like the month for like really good fall beers, and I know Toppling Goliath has a couple really good fall beers. Kevin, you had their Oktoberfest beer a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Was that any good? I heard somebody else tell me like you need to get this beer, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a trip up to Decorah and get this. Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah. I got a 4-pack. It did not last long. Would it pair well with cake?
A carrot cake.
Oh, a carrot cake. Maybe. I mean, if it was gonna pair with anything, I'd say like a pumpkin pie. Just kind of that Oktoberfest style beer kind of has that type of taste that might go well with it.
I could bury a pumpkin pie and whipped cream.
There you go. Yeah, that's like my brother-in-law does the same thing. They just hand him the whipped cream bowl, and you just put the pie right in it, just right over top.
Let's go.
Yeah. Gotta drown out that pumpkin flavor.
Well, let's get into talking a little bit more about the Cubs. Since this is a Cubs podcast, let's talk a little bit about the Cubs. Second half, been pretty good. I mean, nothing to really complain about, going 32-29 the second half. Playing some good baseball as of late. We've won 2 series now. Good series this weekend. And so moving forward, we have 10 games left.
I think we're done next Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. I think it's 9 games.
So yeah, I think 10 is right.
I mean, when you look at even like these stats, like, you know, since the All-Star break, we're 32-29. Our team batting average is 233, which isn't great. Team OBP is 299. What I would like to look at is just our overall pitching. And I feel like the one thing that has been the difference between first half and second half has been starting pitching. We've had a little bit less injuries with our starting pitching. We've had Stroman back and pitching almost every 5 days. We had Steele at the beginning of the second half, was pitching absolutely lights out. Keegan Thompson came back after a short injury this week, pitched dominant again. Our starting pitching has been solid. And I think that is the key. And that has been the key. And I've said this all season long, that like our starting pitching is what will carry us forward. And so like thinking about why it was so successful this second half, I'm kind of just landing on our starting pitching. Like if that's what we're going to go get even next year in the offseason, is getting a horse to lead that staff, it makes me even more hopeful of a playoff run caliber team next year. What are your guys' thoughts with this second half?
Yeah, I'll jump in really quick, because as you were talking about that, I looked up the second half stats, and I'm sure they've been talked about on the broadcast. As a team, our starters ERA is 3.15 for the second half. So that's how many games was that?
Well, I saw that we were like top 5 in all of baseball.
Top 3. We're third behind the Dodgers and the Astros. So when you think about those, I mean, the Astros pitching staff has been fantastic all year. The Dodgers, as they always do, piece it together through the injuries, and Tyler Anderson came out of nowhere for them. They lost Walker Buehler and had an extended absence from Kershaw, but that shows like what the Cubs should be striving for. And we're kind of like, based on these second half statistics, we're already kind of right there, which is honestly shocking. You look at the underlying numbers, like the xFIP and the Sierra. I can't remember what Sierra stands for, but it's like xFIP is fielding independent pitching. And those aren't as good because the starting staff strikeout rate is not great. It's 20%, which I didn't sort that, but I think it's pretty middle to the lower of the pack. So yeah, I mean, like the pitching's been great, and it's been beaten to death. We know, like you said, we've got to get a stud this offseason. You talked about Keegan coming back. We've talked about his stats on the show between starter and reliever. The dude needs to be in the bullpen. I think he got his run this year, and he can be a good starter. But look at how good he's been as a reliever, and that's where he's more impactful for the Cubs. So sign the big starter and bump Keegan to the pen, and you've got a lights out dude that can give you multiple innings, and that's invaluable in today's game.
And I think that something that hasn't been talked about enough is, and we haven't mentioned a lot, is Adrian Sampson. I mean, I just like, he has been really, really, really good. Really, really good. And like, it's super surprising, but like that only adds to going forward for next year. It's like, okay, you have a dude that has pitched really, really well. And that if we need him, he can be your 5th starter. If Kyle Hendricks doesn't come back from injury like we hope he does and performs next year, we have that guy that's there. We could use him as a piece to trade, but we have pitching depth that every team needs going through the season. 5 guys in a rotation are not going to pitch every 5th day the whole season long. There's going to be injuries throughout the season. So to know that you have a guy like Adrian Sampson on your roster, on your 40-man roster that can come in and eat up innings and give you quality starts. That's something that like he's done in the second half. He's come in and pitched great.
When he came out and talked after his last start about how those good playoff bound teams have 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 starters available. You know, some of them get stashed at AAA. Some of them are bullpen guys who can come out and pitch a start or two. And he talked about being that guy and willing to be that guy for the Cubs in the future, which is huge. One, you know, he doesn't have an ego about it. And two, we've seen so much success, like almost baffling success. I think it's Brett at Bleacher Nation. Every one of his starts for a while was like, why is this working? Why is he striking out these guys? Why is he making it this? He should go 3 innings and get blown up based on his like pitch complex. And it's like, nope, he goes 6, 7. What's he got? Like 4, I don't even remember how many, but he's on a quality start streak. It's like 6 or 7 or something like that, or 6 out of the last 7 starts. But
it makes no sense. It makes no sense looking at the underlying numbers. He's not giving up barrels and his hard hit rate is low, but like everything else says that he should be getting walloped.
Well, it has helped that we have been playing the Pirates and we have been playing the Marlins. Like,
but
when I look at
out, I mean, he battled DeGrom.
He did.
He shut out in his innings. We shut out the Mets that game, but he shut out in what, 6, 7 innings that game?
He did.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I'll give him credit, but I appreciate, like you said, Kevin, bringing up that quote. Like, yes, he realizes that the depth is necessary, and like the guy's realistic. Like, I'm sure he knows that he's not an ace. It'd be sick if he developed into one, but at 30 years old, that's, it's not going to happen with the stuff that he has. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if Hendricks doesn't come back next year, he's proven that he can be a serviceable 5th starter, if not, above replacement level there.
And Alzolay kind of echoed that and said kind of the same thing. Like, it's good that you have like 2 guys on your staff that are saying kind of the same thing. Like, we're willing to do whatever it's needed because we see that the future is bright. We're willing to do whatever is needed to be able to bring a championship here. And I mean, that's what you want from teammates.
Yeah.
It's unselfishness.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And it's kind of sick to think about, like, you got Alzolay, potentially Sampson, potentially Thompson, all sitting in your bullpen. If off-season signings go well, and it's like, I'll take those 3 there any day. I mean, you brought up Thompson coming out and pitching again, and he just, when he comes out of the bullpen, he has such energy, and he just looks like he's kind of pissed when he's pitching, which is kind of fun to watch because then his stuff is just burning up and just striking guys out left and right and making people look silly, which is fantastic.
Well, and even after that one shaky inning on his first game back from Alzolay, he's been lights out. And I mean, I gotta like what I see in Alzolay, and going forward, like, will he be that kind of middle reliever 2-inning guy that fills in long reliever type guy? And I'm okay with that being him.
Yeah.
Like, especially when he's still, like, you see him still struggling to get lefties out. The game that he came in after Miley went down, it was the lefties that got him. The one home run was a lefty. And so, like, he still needs to be able to command that cutter and get it in on the hands. Too many times he leaves that out over the plate and it gets hammered, or he doesn't get, his slider gets too far and it gets in the dirt and they aren't swinging at it. They're just laying off and waiting for him to throw that fastball and driving it. What else has gone great, Jeff, the second half? What do you kind of see?
Some emergence of some of our young stars, like Hayden Winnipesaukee. That's been awesome. He threw an immaculate inning last week, and Jan Gomes thought it was no big deal. Way to crush a young kid's heart.
I mean, you got to keep them grounded, the young guys. You got
right. Let's see. Well, I've been pretty pleased with, Nico Horner's, like, for the most part of the season, is like dodged that injury bug until of late, but he's been phenomenal all season. Let's see. I've been surprised by McKinstry's play.
Yeah, he went through a hot stretch.
He did.
Yeah.
That's been awesome. I don't know. Jake, weren't you like high on this Rivas character? You want to talk about that at all?
I believe, like, I really wanted Rivas to be something. I didn't think he'd be like a power hitting first baseman, but when you've got the glove that he has at first, and you're one of the few lefties that the Cubs have available, you kind of hope for something from him.
Right.
And we traded, I think, like Tony Kemp for him. So it was like, if we could get a, an everyday, like 100, 105 WRC plus first baseman for Tony Kemp that plays solid, maybe Gold Glove defense, that'd be awesome. But frankly, like, we know that at first base, like, you've got to get that's where the power is coming from. It's coming from the corners. So, and he's not he's not a Keith Hernandez type, right? Where he's batting like 340. So I don't know. I still think Rivas could be a decent bench piece. I think he's played corner outfield, right? He's played left field, right field.
Yep.
So he can play there in a pinch. He wouldn't be my first choice, but Jeff, at the beginning of the season, we all try to be optimistic about something, right?
Right.
I mean, I was high on Clint Frazier, now Jackson Frazier.
Me too.
And I
was too.
We all see how that's turned out. He's batting like $109 at Iowa.
I think the dude is totally mental. Did you read his like recent quotes?
Yep.
For our listeners that didn't hear, he basically said, like, as soon as he got DFA'd, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Or
and then
outrighted.
Yeah, but then nobody picked him up, and then he took his assignment.
So I know, yeah, right. So
because he made money, he kept his contract money.
So he knew he was quoted as saying, like, as soon as that happened, like, he knew that it was over with the Cubs. And it's just like, what a defeatist mentality, man. Like, that's why this dude hasn't panned out. It's like, yeah, that sucks, dude. That sucks. I can't imagine being in that. Literally can't imagine being in that position. But you're still being paid to play for professional baseball, and you still have a chance to make a major league roster. Like, the Cubs are still
piss you off and prove them wrong. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, I'm gonna go out there and rake, and you're gonna
instead of rolling over and be like, it just, because at the same time too, dude, like, you're still putting out an audition for the other 29 teams that are out there and showing them, like, hey, sign me this offseason, even if it's to a minor league contract. Like, I'm worth taking a chance on. And instead, he's batting like 185. And it just is like, it sucks to see that a guy who apparently had all this talent and, just the mental aspect of the game, which I recognize they're playing 162 games of baseball has got to be more physically and mentally tolling than any of us can understand. But at the same time, you're in that, man. Like, you're one of the lucky few. You can't just like expect it. I don't know. I wanted a lot out of Jackson Frazier. I thought it was a great signing when we picked him up, but wasn't meant to be.
Well, I asked this question to you guys earlier, and we just saw the Cleveland Guardians clinch their playoff spot, which nobody saw coming. I think at the opening day, Fangraphs gave them a 6.4% chance of making the playoffs, and they had them winning 77 games. That was how many wins they had them predicted to win.
I think like 84. 84, 86.
Yeah, something like that. But can we replicate what the Guardians did this year, next year, and make the playoffs? And do our teams kind of look a little bit similar? Like, I know we have Carter Hawkins that we took from the Cleveland Guardians to kind of help our pitching infrastructure. I think he's already done a good job of you saw with the draft, them drafting a ton of pitching. He's went out and I think he handpicked Hayden Wesneski. Is he? Jeff, you're messing me up now.
Hayden
Winnebago, Rowan Gardner. But like, you already see the infrastructure that we have built with our pitching that's going to kind of replicate what the Guardians have. That's what's carrying them. And they have so many young guys. I think they have 16 different rookies make their debut this year for the Guardians. and have a huge impact on that team. Now, next year, the Cubs aren't going to have that because they're going to go spend some money. And that's what separates us from the Guardians and from those other teams is we're a big market team. We can go spend money. And so this year, if we go spend money, but do you see kind of some similarities, and can we replicate kind of what the Guardians did and have where nobody picks us and us make the playoffs next year? What are your thoughts, Kevin?
I think we're going to be a surprise, though we're a big market team, so the Cubs get a lot of attention, whereas the Guardians kind of run under the radar. And I think, like, I want to see us go out there and do this, go make the playoffs next year. However, the one little hiccup potentially is that the AL Central just stank this year, was not great. And that's, the Cardinals are for some reason going to pull out some voodoo and they're going to be good again. And the Brewers, I don't know, they're probably still going to have amazing pitching, even though their hitting sucks, but they'll still be kind of in the talk. So I wonder if the NL Central is just stronger overall than the AL Central. But I think, like you brought up, the difference here is going to be that the Cubs will spend. The Guardians, I was even talking to a guy when I was picking up my son for football who's a Guardians fan, and he was like, yeah, we made the playoffs. Yep, that means we're going to ship off 3/4 of our pitching at the end of the season, and one guy's going to win the Cy Young, and we'll never see him again. And like he was like, I was like, you can't be happy you made the playoffs? He's like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this offseason, or I enjoy the postseason, and I'm going to hate the offseason, was what he said. And I think that's a difference just with the Cubs being able to, we're going to keep the guys we like, kind of get rid of some of the other ones. But I think we could make a run. I like our odds going into next year. What do you think, Jeffy Poo?
Well, I couldn't agree more with you that the AL Central is weak. I mean, there's usually one front-running team, and as of late, with the exception of last year, it's been the Indians/Guardians. Kansas City won it 7 years ago or whatever. But, like, there's a dumpster fire on the south side of Chicago that hired somebody that should have retired and stayed retired. That didn't pan out. And then the Twins. When was the last time the Twins were really competitive?
I mean, they crashed and burned kind of the second half.
Hard.
Well, they were really good in 2020.
Yeah.
They set, or whatever, like in the 2019, they set the single season record for most home runs at 2019.
Yep.
And
2019.
But they haven't really done anything.
Well, so the thing with
they always face the Yankees and get beat in the first round.
Right.
The thing with the Twins is injury.
Yeah.
I mean, Buxton, Kirilloff, they have another young outfielder that's come up with Kirilloff that kind of looks wild. I don't think he's a Schwarber type, but he looks like Kyle Schwarber, and it's killing me. I can't remember his name.
Played linebacker in Indiana.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, he was also, no, I don't know where he went, but lefty, and he's expected to be a power hitter, but I think with it was kind of a perfect storm, both positively for the Guardians and negatively for the other teams, that it just worked out for the Guardians. I mean, if you want to compare their team last year, I was looking at it. So they were, I think I said they were 35-40 after the All-Star break. But the thing that's like they have two things that kind of stand out to me. For one, the Guardians have one of the best hitters, arguably one of the best players in baseball, definitely the most underrated in baseball, in Jose Ramirez. He is the cornerstone of that franchise. And I would say like 75% of like the average baseball fans don't know who Jose Ramirez is. It's ridiculous. The dude's a stud. So they have him to build around. But outside of that, they had huge breakout seasons from Andres Jimenez, a season-long OPS of 856, a 146 OPS plus. This is this year. So what I'm saying is, like, if we're going to transition, if the Cubs are going to be the Guardians next year, they need someone like Andres Jimenez. It doesn't have to be a second baseman, but they need a breakout like that. They need a breakout like Steven Kwan. Steven Kwan's a great contact hitter, and he started to show that he can run a little bit too in the second half. He's an outfielder, if I didn't say that. And then Ahmed Rosario, who they also got from the Mets with Andres Jimenez. Those are the two big pieces that they got for Francisco Lindor. So both of those guys have worked out and then some. And then you've got another mini breakout from a guy like Josh Naylor, who's a power hitting first baseman. So that's not even talking about their pitching staff, where they still have Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, one of the, probably 15, maybe top 15, top 20 starting pitchers in baseball this year. Let's see, I'm looking up here really quick. I guess that's they've had those two guys. Cal Quantrill's been good, Aaron Savali. So they have all these kind of under the radar guys that just really popped for them this year. And I haven't done the research to look at counterparts, but I don't know if that's there for the Cubs. It's a really interesting conversation though, Mitch. I mean, if we sign a Trey Turner, if we sign a Correa and then an ace starting pitcher, then yeah, I think so, because I think Nico becomes Andres Jimenez of the Cubs. I don't think he's going to maybe hit for as much power, but then you've got more of a side-by-side comparison that makes a lot of sense.
Well, maybe we do sign a guy and we also trade for Shane Bieber. And so then we just steal, because I've heard that the Guardians do want to dump that contract because it is pretty big and they are the Guardians. They don't have a big payroll. That could be a possible off-season move. I'd be totally for that. And I don't know what the Cubs would have to give up. I'm guessing quite a bit. I think I brought it up on a different episode. Maybe it's Ian Happ, or maybe it's an Adrian Sampson, or maybe it's a minor league. I don't know. But
I think the Guardians will want to get young. Their outfield's kind of clogged.
Yeah.
They've got some good pieces in their outfield.
They do.
A veteran presence like Happ would make sense for a lot of teams, but I don't think it does for the Guardians. So that's good for us. I want to hold on to him. But again, with the expiring contract, maybe you tack on some other pieces to clear up that. It doesn't make sense for the Guardians to take on an expiring contract either. It's interesting. I'm into Bieber, but especially with the Carter Hawkins connection, I'm curious if Hawkins goes after them. That means that he believes in Bieber, despite, he kind of had an up and down year. There was a point in the season where he kind of dipped a little bit. His velocity is down, but the underlying numbers still look good.
Last year, the Guardians, then the Indians, finished the second half with 35-40 record in the second half last year. So we have a better second half heading in, which is good. I think Bleacher Nation, we're plugging Bleacher Nation a ton, even came out with an article today. Should we be cheering for them to win, the Cubs to win? Because that's only hurting our draft. But I kind of like what Nico has said all along. Right. It's no, we're auditioning for free agents. That's our goal, not to get a good draft pick right now. We're auditioning for free agents to want to come here and play with us. That's a leader. That's Nico being a leader. That's awesome to hear. And that's what we want. And so, yeah, that's why we want them to win. We want, if that's our goal this year, to go out and sign some guys, we want them to choose us.
I really don't think we're that far off. I don't.
No.
The feelings I have about this season is the same feeling I had in 2014. And yeah, we were kind of a surprise in 2015. I mean, we weren't expected to make it to the World Series until was it 2016 or 2017? Anyway, They were early, but they played phenomenal baseball. All we need is a couple of pieces here, a couple of pieces there, and for everybody to stay off the IR and, have a couple phenomenal seasons. We'll be fine. Everything's fine.
Here's a question for you guys that's not in the show notes. Would you here's backstory. Dave Roberts said that Kimbrel is officially out as the Dodgers closer, at least for the rest of the regular season. Would you want to see a reunion between the Cubs and Kimbrel? Assuming it's probably going to be a cheap, the deal is not going to be huge. Would you guys want to see him on one of those 1-year deals? Is that a piece that makes sense? You flip him if we're not doing well, you eat the contract if he's not doing well, and if both things align, then you've got Craig Kimbrell.
Right.
I would say yes, because right now we don't have a closer.
Mm-hmm.
No.
We don't. Rowan Wick is not a closer. Like,
No, I want Wick.
I'm
Wick gone.
out. Like,
Yeah,
it's done. I know he found success working with Hottovy after a while. Like, they figured some stuff out, and he finished great with the Cubs. Went to the White Sox, and it just didn't work. Like, something was working with the Cubs and what they were doing with him. He felt comfortable at Wrigley. And you need that veteran guy in the bullpen to help, like, any of those young guys that we're bringing up. You need one or two of those guys in the bullpen. That's why, like, Dave Robertson was so good early on, like being in the bullpen. Like, a lot of the guys talked about that having him as the veteran guy there to kind of help them how to go about getting ready in the bullpen. Like, that's important. Like, so yeah, why not? Like, why not take a shot? Like, you're going to get probably a pretty good deal with it. So I like it.
I'd like to see, cheap deal, like you said, but you bring him in and then you get Cody Hoyer back, and then you got Manrod. We've got a lot of pieces then that a lot of younger guys around Kimbrel, and hopefully it works out and he's lights out. And then we've got so many talented arms sitting in our bullpen, just rake it over people in the late innings. Be great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I can't
the big thing,
imagine right
big
now.
thing that I'm looking at really quick is he's throwing his curveball a lot less, like 10%. Obviously, that means he's only got curveball, fastball, so he's throwing the fastball more and the curveball a lot less. So you wonder what's happening there. The fastball velocity is down a little bit from last year, but that's an average over the season. I didn't look at like how it's fallen or risen over the season, but I don't know, man. Like you said, like having the veteran, I think is huge. And yeah, Kevin bringing up Hoyer too. Like, I don't know where when did he have Tommy John? That was like right in the beginning of the season, right?
I think it was spring training, or even just
Was it even before the season
It
started?
was right before spring training, because I made a video that he was going to like carry our bullpen. And then like 2 days later, it was like, nope, he's injured.
Never mind. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's expected to be back for most of next season.
Yeah, March 8th, according to NBC Sports Chicago. So, okay.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm all for it. I'm all for bringing Kimbrel back. I think it's very different than when we signed Brandon Morrow, right? Like, we needed a closer and we were still competitive, and Morrow just like blew up in our faces, and then we didn't have a closer. Like, in this case, you've got Craig Kimbrel to mentor the young guys and talk about what makes him different. If he can quantify that, what makes him different going into the ninth inning historically throughout his career, and trying to impart that wisdom on these young relievers. Because like we've mentioned, like Brandon Hughes is a stud. We don't have to go through all the names. We've got guys who theoretically can and should be taking over that position. And I think it'd be really cool to see. I loved Kimbrel as a Cub. I'd be really excited to have him back. And hold down the role if he proves that he can, while we're getting the other younger guys ready to take that position over after him, and getting them in high leverage situations that maybe aren't closing out the game, but testing their guile and seeing if they've got what it takes to be nails in the ninth.
The real question is, if he does come back, what song does he walk out to? Sweet Child of Mine or Let It Go? Because he did make a switch with the Dodgers and saw some success with Let It Go, the Frozen song. So
somebody's got to mash them up. Somebody's got to do a.
See, and I like Backstreet's Back. Like, if he starts doing well.
But I mean, yeah, we could talk about. I mean, this whole offseason, we're going to be talking about what the Cubs should do, who they should be picking up. I'm sure we're going to dig deep into what starting pitchers they should be going after. which of the shortstops they should sign.
Series parade. That's going to be speculation until free agency.
And
At
the
least
thing
we
is,
have to
like,
sit through a lockout this year.
yep.
I almost
The thing
forgot
is-
that we had the lockout last year.
Oh yeah. The thing that stinks is, like, we've heard a lot about Rodon signing with the Cubs, and Rodon is a Boris guy, and you know that Boris likes to like hold his guys out until the very end, and so it's like, I don't want to sit through. I want like quick, like give me what I want right now. So that's gonna be a tough one, but we're gonna be digging into that all off season long, which is gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun because it's gonna give us a ton of topics to talk about, a ton of things to dig in and figure out who we should sign, and then who are we gonna piece around? Because there will be some guys that we'll see let go if they don't sign Contreras. Are they gonna go with Higgins and Gomes behind the plate? We don't know. I've liked Higgins, so I mean, there's a lot to get into. But let's get into a little bit of just MLB talk, because I mean, heading towards the playoffs, it's fun. I'm gonna watch the playoffs. There's some exciting teams that are still trying to make the playoffs, and so, but we do have some other things. We had Pujols get a 700th. How are you guys' thoughts and feelings on this? Do we give like a little golf clap and then move on, or
I wasn't really impressed with it.
I mean, he barely
there's
made it
Jeff.
around the bases, right?
Right. I saw somebody did the math for like his average around the base time was like 26 seconds, and then you multiply that by 700. He spent like 5 hours rounding the bases or something like that. Something ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, good for him. I mean, it's good for baseball. Good for him. You know, huge landmark. That's kind of one of those ones where, you know, I guess it's okay, and then we're back to being Cubs fans, and he can stop hitting, retire. We never have to see him again. Goodbye.
I'm gonna say something, and something happened because he wasn't good the last like 4 years. I'm not gonna say he's taking steroids, but like, why wouldn't he? When you know he's done after this year, like, why wouldn't you like, oh, hey, I want to end my career really strong?
He's probably been doubling up on the collagen.
There it is. I don't know.
I think, look, I'm all for the conspiracy theories in baseball.
Let's start them.
Ringworm?
I think that in September they have changed the baseball again.
Mm-hmm.
I did the math. I didn't get this. This isn't an original thought. I have to give credit where credit is due. Scott White, he's not listening, but Scott White of CBS Sports, one of my favorite fantasy baseball analysts.
Hey, he might be listening. You don't.
Probably not. He's a busy guy. They're recording their show in like a couple hours.
I'm gonna direct message and send our episode to him.
Yeah, I'd appreciate. Scott, I'm a huge fan. You guys have helped me win multiple fantasy championships, so thank you. But he talked about how the home run to fly ball percentage has fluctuated first season to season. Then he was talking about, because he was trying to put it in the frame of like how it changes throughout the season and how typically from April to May to June we see it rise, and Jeff is falling asleep. But I'm getting to my point here.
The stats.
Home run to fly ball ratio means like how often a fly ball goes over the fence. The ratio was statistically like the lowest it's been in years, which we expected with the baseball this year. But it like jumped like a percentage point or two between August and September, which is statistically very significant. And when you've got Aaron Judge and Albert Pujols chasing
those balls not make it to New
numbers.
York this weekend.
I mean, right. So like, I think it benefits baseball. Like we said, it benefits baseball to like have push notifications on these apps, like have it trending on Twitter, on social media. Like it gets eyes on the game. So I'm all for, like, whatever happened, I don't give a shit. Sorry. Like, Pujols is probably the best right-handed hitter of all time. He and Hank Aaron, 3,000 hits, 500 or 700 home runs. The two guys And we got to witness that in our lifetime. It sucks that he was on our arch rival for half of his career, and he did that damage to us for 10 years or however many years it was. But I don't know if we're going to, like, I don't think we'll ever see it again. I don't think career longevity is there unless we do see rabbit balls come back. Like, I don't think we're going to see 700 home runs again. So I'm for it. If baseball, fiddled with the ball or whatever to make it happen, good on them. But I am over this Aaron Judge home run chase, getting a notification on my phone every time he's at bat. Tune in live. Like, it's not even, it's a meaningless record. It's not the major league record.
The most home runs in the AL ever.
Oh, who cares? Who cares? If it wasn't Bonds, okay, before Mark McGwire and Sosa, who held the National League record? Probably Hank Aaron. I couldn't tell you what it was. Who knows?
More than 25 home runs in a season.
I think they're trying to make it a big deal because they think he's clean, and it'll be the first one where it's like, I think even Rizzo even made a comment, like, it's the first clean home, like, over 61. It'll be the first guy that's done it clean. And so I think that's why they're trying to, like, hey, we're past the steroid. I think MLB's pushing it because they're like, hey, we're past the steroid era and we still have guys doing amazing things.
I guess for the average fan, or like someone that, like, that makes sense. Like, because people still affiliate baseball with the steroid era if they haven't been watching closely over the last 2 decades, whatever. So that's a good point. I think that's a good point, Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because there's a kid at my school that's a huge Aaron Judge fan. And so we, like, every single day, like, we're talking, like, I mean, even a month ago, he walked in, like, second day of school with an Aaron Judge jersey. And I was like, oh, how many is he going to get? And he's like, oh, 63. I think he's going to get, I was like, he's not getting 63 or right. 73. I was like, so, like, even like this week, he's like, hey, we still got the sweep, but still waiting on 61. And so it's been fun, like, because he's gotten into it, and now he's got his friends watching the game. So it's like that. It's getting eyes on the sport and eyes on baseball, and that's great, especially heading into a playoffs that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Like, with expanded playoffs, I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching some of these teams that are pretty exciting make it, especially AL. And now we got a lot of things going on in the NL with the Braves and the Mets. Like, that's interesting. Like, so there's cool. some really cool storylines as we head into the baseball playoffs that are going to be fun. And yeah, I mean, anytime I'm seeing young guys that are in junior high into watching Major League Baseball, like, that's a good thing. So
just checking out the standings, totally random thing. I was just checking out the standings. AL, and it's got Astros and Guardians have clinched their division. The Yankees have clinched a wild card spot, and they're 8.5 games up on the Blue Jays, but they still can't say division, And what were they up, like 15 or 20 some games before they went in their giant skid? Like,
yeah. Well, even that, like, right now, Seattle's going to be playing Cleveland. Like, that's going to be a fun, like, young Cleveland versus Seattle, who hasn't made the playoffs in forever. That's like a fun, like, I liked Seattle last year, and possibly getting to watch them again this year, but actually make the playoffs. Like, that's interesting. I mean, the Braves, like, I want to see if they can repeat. I want to see the Mets make a huge collapse and lose in the playoffs. Like, I want to see, I mean, maybe I don't, because then that means that Cohen's going to go spend even more money this offseason and maybe take guys away from the Cubs. So maybe I don't want that. Go win the World Series, Mets. Go for it. But yeah, so it's just some fun storylines that are going to be fun to watch in the playoffs. All right. Let's finish with a little bit of this or that. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys, and you have to pick between the two. And you have to get rid of one. It's going to be Cubs themed. So first is you either have to get rid of Take Me Out to the Ball Game or get rid of Go Cubs Go, sung after the game. You have to pick one.
Ooh.
Jeffrey, we're starting with you.
What a dick move. I'm gonna say I'm gonna keep Take Me Out to the Ball Game. because that's always been around since I've watched Cubs baseball. And the Go Cubs Go, I don't know when they started doing that. Was it 15, 20, sometime? I don't know. I'm gonna keep taking me out to the ball game. But it's got to be the hologram.
Oh gosh, the 3D.
I will agree with Jeff. Go Cubs Go is great. It's a lot of fun, but like just the history of take me out to the ball game with the Cubs, you can't when you're at Wrigley Field, you can't not sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Yep.
Right. I agree. I agree. I was trying to find arguments for why to keep Go Cubs Go, and just like you bring in guests that sing it. You got Harry Carey from Way in the Back, but there's too much history there, I think.
All right, next one. You have to either get rid of the marquee outside of Wrigley Field or the scoreboard in center field.
These are mean, man.
Kevin, we're starting with you.
Jeez. I'm going to say the marquee, but that's because I watch it on TV all the time. So I still want to see the center field scoreboard. And I don't necessarily see the marquee when I'm watching the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. You when you go to Wrigley, you take your picture in front of the marquee outside of Wrigley Field.
Oh, yep. I get it. But I watch
I'm looking behind
games.
you, Jeff. Yeah.
I'm a wall.
Jeff, what about you?
I like that we have the nostalgic vintage scoreboard. It's not 1,000 or a million LEDs. It's hand operated. There's people out there in the summers just probably sweating their balls off in a plywood box. I'm keeping the scoreboard.
I'm surprised that we're all agreeing. I'm keeping the scoreboard too, because I think if the marquee's gone, then the scoreboard takes its place, because people take pictures across the street from the back of the scoreboard where it says Chicago Cubs, and you see all the pennants flying above, not pennants, I guess, but the team flags, and then the W or the L after win or loss. So I think you still have something that faces outside of the stadium that holds some significance.
Yep. All right. Cubs have to get rid of the pinstripes for home games, or they have to get rid of the ivy on the outfield wall.
Jeepers, where'd you come up with these things?
Jake.
Pinstripes. Pinstripes are gone. You can't get rid of the ivy, man. It's like, it also gives the Cubs, as the designer in me, it gives the Cubs a reason to come up with a new home uniform. I love I wouldn't change the Cubs home uniform, but like it gives them a reason to do it. So sorry, pinstripes are gone.
Jeff.
Yeah, I'm saying ditch the pinstripes, because the ivy's iconic. Like it's sort of like the Georgia Bulldogs Stadium where they play between the hedges.
Wasn't the Cubs the first team to wear pinstripes?
They were. Yeah. So that's tough. But it's just but people think it's the Yankees, so that's like it's not as historic.
What about you, Kevin?
Man, I'm trying to find arguments for why to get rid of the ivy, and I don't think they exist, because even
why couldn't this been about food?
Right? I was just sitting here. I was like, no, you keep the Cubby dog, like the Chicago dog stays. Like, no, I think the pinstripes got to go.
I'd be curious what the players would say. The outfielders would say.
Yeah,
because I bet they'd say get rid of the ivy.
That's what I was like. Player safety. Yeah. That's the angle I could play. Like, get rid of the ivy. You put some padding in. But no, pinstripes.
Yeah. Okay. So I said for the pinstripes, I would get rid of pinstripes and keep the ivy. I really like the outside marquee. It's just something like I remember always taking my picture whenever we go outside in front of the marquee. And so that's like iconic to do. What was the first one? What was the first question I asked?
Why did you write it down?
I don't know, but it was.
Yeah, we're just making these up off the cuff.
Go Cubs go.
Go Cubs go, or take me out of the ball game. Yeah, I said take me out, or get rid of Go Cubs go, take me out to the ball game, because that's like, I mean, I can remember from being a very, very, very young kid singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" with Harry Carey. Like that was something that I looked forward to, like even more than the game. I wanted to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Like I would wait around watching the game with my grandpa just so I could sing the 7th inning stretch.
Yeah.
And then like, who cares about the rest of the innings? Like, but that was it. Like that was what I wanted as a little kid, was "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So
Yeah.
sweet. Well, next week is our 100th episode, and we have a fun episode planned. We have a little bit of a crossover that we're going to be doing with John Boy Media and the Compound Podcast, which we've been kind of trying to do. We wanted Ian Happ. We would have taken Zach Short. We probably could have got Dakota Mekas. I have his phone number, but we're getting Tom Prizeman, who's he's the producer. The producer.
Which not to say that Tom's not a big deal. No. Like I'm excited. We talked about before the episode. I'm excited to get some behind the scenes stuff from Tom that I don't think the guys would talk about.
Yeah, like listen. I mean, Kevin and I listen to the Compound. I know Jake, Jeff, you guys listen to the Compound. Big fans of the Compound. Mm-hmm. Tom's awesome. Like Tom, like all of his insight, like he knows baseball.
Well, he worked in minor leagues for a while too.
Yeah, like he knows baseball. Like he's in it and lives it, and like so it's going to be some great conversation. We're gonna have some fun, but yeah, our 100th episode.
Have you cleared with him that we can do the Yankees segment where we just roast him?
Yeah,
like they do on the
talk about the
Yankees right now.
Hopefully, Judge doesn't get 61. Like just doesn't at all, and so like by then we can just like get on him, because I mean, if you follow any of the John Boy Media, like the Joe's McFly, like he's at every single Yankees game from here on out. Like, and he videotapes every single one, does live reaction, and it's hilarious watching him like get overly excited and then
every fly ball.
Yeah, every fly ball. So yeah, but we're excited to be able to have him on for our 100th episode. As we kind of end the season, that'll be our last episode of this season. We will do an end of the season recap, but then we're going into next season. So we'll be doing stuff during the off season, but yes, we'll kind of end with that. It's sweet that our 100th episode lands on the last week of the regular season. That's cool how that happened. But yeah, thanks for listening to our 99th episode of the Dingers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs and like and subscribe wherever you can get our podcast. Thanks for listening.
Enjoy
Go
some
Cubs.
Toppling Goliath beverages.
Good night, John Boy. I'm so excited.